What's up, everyone? This is Vindictam's Cantina here, coming at you with a new video. And in today's video, we're finally going to be talking about Andor Season 2 and just overall our thoughts on the entire series. And of course, with me here today is Mizuki Rivendell.
Hello.
So, yeah, um, I don't know how long this video is going to take us. I hope it doesn't take us too long,
It
but
shouldn't take us too long if we don't derail.
yeah, especially since I'm not a reviewer, so I'm not just going to review the series. There's plenty of content creators that does that. There's nothing I can do to reinvent the wheel with reviews. Um,
As long
so
as you try, that's the best part about it. You learn as you
and
go.
yep. So Andor is a very fascinating Star Wars series because it is the question of how would someone that doesn't like Star Wars make Star Wars, and that's pretty much what Andor is.
Yeah, you aren't wrong on that. It pretty much is.
And because of that, it feels like Star Wars, but yet it doesn't feel like Star Wars.
It is very
And by
confusing, but it's great at the same time.
and Andor is one of those series that you do want to go back and watch over and over again because you do pick up certain things. There are subtle things that went over my head, but because the Star Wars Andor group on Facebook, they were like explaining how brilliant this line of dialogue is, which I will fully admit that I still think Andor as a series is way overhyped. I think people over like I do think it is overrated. I'm gonna be honest with
I
that.
mean that
Um,
that's understandable. I can agree with you on that one.
but I'm not gonna deny. But I'm not going to disagree with the fact that because of that, the show is brilliant. It is the closest thing that Star Wars has ever gotten to, I guess, a more serious, more adult story, fantasy story. Um, like Game of Thrones. That's what I've seen the show compared to is Game of
Oh,
Thrones.
really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Um, because they're very adult, they're very political at times.
Oh yeah, I've seen bits and and when I say bits and pieces, I saw a few clips of Game of Thrones, but I can see why that would get compared.
And that's another thing that this show stands out with too is that it is very political. It is
Oh
the most
yeah,
political Star Wars thing ever. And
especially in season two.
I mean, it was political even in season one.
I know. I'm just like it got even more so in season two. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say for people that are watching this video, you are Star Wars fans. You know what the Empire was based on. You know where they took a lot of the designs from when it comes to the Empire look, like the stormtroopers and all that stuff. You know where it comes from. It comes straight from World War II and
Yeah.
Germany.
Yeah. That's all we need to say on that.
You know the um the imperial views are very similar to other to those type of groups.
Yeah, you aren't wrong on that one.
Meanwhile, you have Vader that probably doesn't even give a
He he,
frick
he doesn't give a fuck.
because even though that he is one of the most important people of the Empire, he he's not afraid to like share his opinions on what he thinks about certain things, like
Mm-mm.
like the Death Star, for example, which we will get to that. Um, find it funny how we said that we weren't going to get derailed and we already got derailed.
We didn't get derailed.
Hmm.
So, before we start talking about how Vader, what his opinion on the Death Star was, overall opinion on the all of Andor.
The first few episodes was definitely the boring one. I do agree with people that says that the show starts picking up. I definitely started getting. I mean, I was into it even with like the first 3 episodes, because again with Star Wars, I'm a big ship guy. So like seeing the ship that they took from Legends, which is the TIE Avenger, and just casting as some of the TIE pilots out of it,
Yeah.
I definitely enjoyed that. Um, I didn't enjoy one part with Bix though. Because
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I will say when it comes to that debate, I get why they showed it, but I kind of wish they did like what they did for Anakin in Episode 3, at least implied it.
Yeah, not actually show it.
But I understand why they showed that. Um, so I don't want no Andor fan to comment explaining how wrong I am for having this opinion, because they unfortunately there are certain portions of the Andor fandom that does do that quite a bit, and it really does get us on my nerves. Actually, a lot of Star Wars fans do that in general.
Yeah, I was about to say a lot of the fans do that. my
Um, Go on.
my overall opinion of season 2 and Andor as a whole, I really enjoyed it. I will admit it did start off slow as well.
Yeah, once we started getting more closer and closer and closer to Rogue One, like it started becoming like
Yeah, and
you.
I really like how they did the 1 year time skips over 3 episodes each. That was
That was
cool.
cool. Um, Ironically enough, it was actually supposed to be 5 seasons for Andor, they but they decided to just make it 12
Too.
episodes, and
Yeah.
um and but no, once it started getting more and more closer to Rogue One, it started really feeling like Star Wars again. Like once we started seeing Yavin finally establishes itself as the rebel base.
Base, yeah. That, I think we both got excited over that.
Um, because at the end of the day, Star Wars is about hope,
This is
and
true.
I think Andor really does portray that perfectly. And I think, ironically enough, despite Tony Gilroy not being a Star Wars fan, I think he understood at least the
Yeah.
serious themes
Like the
that George.
implication. Yeah.
Yeah, like you know the little guy versus the giant empire.
It's literally in a sense. Well, I don't want to. Never mind. I'm not bringing that into that. That would be bad bringing that into there. Never mind. No,
If it's about a certain war,
no, 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 no. It wasn't about a war. It was something from the Bible, in a sense as well. You could go with that as well.
well, the thing is, George Lucas also took a lot from the Bible too. I mean, Anakin's story is basically the story of Jesus.
Yeah, in a sense. I mean, yeah. Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and say it. When you say the big guy versus the little guy versus the big guy, in a sense, that's also kind of like David and Goliath too.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, and just to see how like you start seeing like the empire starting to crack, because now you have all these rebels, these small group of rebels just constantly just poking at their bubble until it pops. And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also throwing Star Wars Rebels into this because Star Wars Rebels is very much connected to Andor.
It
You
really
can't have
is.
one without the other. Just like how
Yeah.
like I said in a previous video, Revenge of the Sith is a very important movie
It connects a lot of
when they
stuff.
when it comes to Andor.
Yeah. There's a
Um,
good amount of episodes that helps connect things.
well, I don't mean just connect things. I'm talking about
I know.
the prior events. Like perfect example, as I said before, you feel the loss of the Jedi with them not being around.
That is true, you do.
Andor still has the overall themes of the Jedi versus the Sith. They may not show the Force. They may not show any big Force powers or lightsaber duels or Jedi versus Sith and all that. But
You can still kind of
keep
feel it a little bit.
you can feel it big time
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, that's still what Star Wars is about. At this current point, it's about the Jedi versus the Sith. Yes, Andor is about the everyday person, which is true, and I do like it that it's about that. However, you would have to be ignorant. I think that's the right term word
I
for this.
think it is. Yeah. Not knowing? Yeah. Yeah, that might be the right word for it.
Anyways, you all know what the word I mean here. You all would very have to sit there and try to debate me on how that Andor is still about the Jedi is still about Jedi the Jedi versus the Sith, just because they don't show any. And so, Revenge of the Sith, the Bad Batch, Clone Wars season 7, actually Clone Wars in general.
Yeah, I was going to say Clone Wars in general on that one.
Basically, the prequel trilogy, Clone Wars, the Bad Batch, and Rebels are all very important to the story of Andor. And in my opinion, Andor even perfectly ties the prequel trilogy to the originals because you feel that loss of the Jedi. Because if the Jedi was still around during this point, oh, that war against the Empire would be done and over with
Oh, yeah, very much so.
during the first 5 years.
You are not wrong on that.
Especially if they were able to get the clones chips out, like all of them.
Oh, oh, yeah. Oh, that would be a completely
Well,
different story.
and because the fact that this show is more grounded is what people calls it. It does fully, like I said, it does fully show how very important Revenge of the Sith is. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, you guys don't have to like the prequel trilogy, but you all have to at least admit that the prequel trilogy is even more important now.
Oh, very much so.
And it's not just the prequel trilogy that gets this whole new message to it. There's it's also the events of episodes 4, 5, and 6.
You aren't wrong on that.
Because you basically have the torch being passed from one person to the other, and then once that torch gets passed to Leia, it gets passed to R2. R2 passes it on to Obi-Wan, who passes it on
Down
to
to
Luke.
Luke. Yep.
And
Yep.
Luke, there's this line, there's this one long line of people. It doesn't ruin Luke's victory with destroying the Death Star. it just shows how very important it is because you've had all these people making sacrifices for that very moment, for quite literally a new hope to appear. That's what A New Hope is about. It's about Luke
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree.
being being the hope for the galaxy, and that's the one thing I loved about Andor.
Yeah, because when that sudden realization dawns on you, it's like, oh dear Lord, a lot of people sacrifice themselves in order for that to be passed to Luke.
Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, before Andor season 2 came out, they were even talking about how like this is going to change the way you view Rogue One. Well, I hate to break it. I mean, I mean, I'm sure that Diego Luna would agree. It's not just going to change Rogue One. It now changes the OT. It now
Yeah.
changes what came before. Perfect example. When we first see Saul in the Clone Wars, we see what happens to him.
Yeah, and then that explains how he is in later on in the Star Wars
Mm-hmm.
universe.
Saul is literally using tactics that the Jedi and the clones taught him.
Yep.
So I think that's why Saul has a sort of, you know, opinion about himself during Andor and Rebels and um, Jedi Fallen Order is that, you know, he was trained by like two of the best Jedi. He was trained by a freaking amazing Padawan,
And
and
then the
then he was
clones.
trained by freaking the clone troopers, the five of
Yeah.
hers, and I believe Cody as well. I think
I
Cody was
think
there, if
I
I remember.
think Cody was there because I think some of Obi-Wan's platoon was there as well.
But I will say this too is that even the power play with all these different factions in Andor was fascinating to watch. Like
It
how
really is.
in Andor season 2, it kind of brings back the whole thing that Qui-Gon says, there's always a bigger fish. And it
Mm-hmm.
shows that perfectly. You have the ISB using Cyril. Then you have Krennic using the ISB. Then you have Tarkin using Krennic. And then above Tarkin,
Veda.
you have Vader, then you have Palpatine. Now, with Thrawn, I'm not going to include Thrawn in that because Thrawn is someone that, one, I think he could beat anyone with how smart his mind is. I think that honestly, if he was a part of the rebellion, I think that war would have been done with even quicker than when, Luke and
Oh
Han and
my.
Leia was a part of it.
You know, you make a valid point with that. Holy dear
If it wasn't,
Lord.
um, that's another thing too, is that I believe I can't remember, but I believe, and of course, you're going to edit this in if I'm correct or not.
Ye.
I believe it's the events of Rogue One that takes place at the same time as Ezra and Thrawn going into that alternate
I will
galaxy.
have to look that up, but I think you're right on that. I will have to look that up though.
And, you know, overall, the the things I like about it is that it felt more like Star Wars. The story was fantastic. Um, I do have a new appreciation for what came before and what comes after.
They did amazing.
Um, Luthen is, of course, one of the best newer Star Wars characters, along with Andor.
Yeah.
K2SO is hilarious.
I love the fact that they pointed out afterwards that him and Chopper were at the base at the same time during that. Those two had to commit so many war crimes.
Not just those two, but R2 was there at the same
Oh
time as
yeah, I
them as
forgot
well.
Art. Okay, all three of them committed war crimes together. Had to at some point. I don't know when, but they had to at some point.
That's the comic series they should do.
Oh my. Yes, the war crimes of K2SO, Chopper, and R2D2.
It would be a droid buddy cop movie, and then you would have C-3PO there as kind of the straight man.
Oh yeah. Oh, 3PO. I feel sorry for you, buddy.
I like, honestly, even though the series was meant to show why you shouldn't like the Empire, I still like the Empire. I'm sorry.
Yeah, same here. Speaking of
Um,
the Empire,
yeah.
do you want to state on how Vader viewed the Death Star?
Well, before we get to that, let's talk about the scene that got us both shot, which is the Gorman massacre.
Oh yeah, that. Oh god. Yeah, that scene was oh, I can't even describe that scene. Oh.
Obviously, I can't add. Obviously, I can't re-event the real my opinion on that. All, all I'm going to say is I definitely agree with other content creators that that scene was brilliantly done. It's tragic. It's sad. It's literally horror,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
it definitely shows how terrifying the Empire actually is. And
Yeah.
that's the one thing I do like about Andor.
Yeah, it can. It really shows some things.
And
Oh.
also to when like you have Zero angry at Dedra for figuring out what the actual plan was. It's just him, finally just snapping and finally not allowing anyone to,
Yeah.
finally him standing up for himself. I think honestly, if it wasn't for him noticing Cassian, I think he would have ended up on the rebellion.
Oh yeah, very much so. Not only that, I wanted to
And
give him a hug.
I also want to give Dedra a hug too,
Yeah, they
to be
both
honest.
needed hugs.
Um, because you could tell at the end, even though that they were on the wrong side, they were not like evil people.
No,
Dadjo was hesitant about giving that order. You could tell.
oh yeah, very much so. And then there's
And
just oh.
and, and then and then the battle between Andrea and Cassie. Andrea, what the Andrea, a new Star Wars character, fighting Cassie. Anyways, when Zero fights Cassian, and then Cassian finally after the battle's done, Cassian looks at him and tells him, "Who are you?" That must have sucked for Cyril because it's like Cassian was responsible for Cyril's life becoming the way it is.
Yeah, and
100%.
Cassian had no idea who he was.
No. And sadly, I hate to say it, but that's one of my biggest fears, actually.
I mean, I get the feeling with what happened with Sarah there is anyone's biggest fear is literally being forgotten.
And but no, that whole scene, especially with the scene of Deidre having this mental breakdown and finally composing herself and just overall her spiral to where she started doing stuff that she wasn't supposed to, like going into restricted files and her being called by Krennic, and now she's in the same jail as Cassian. And the one scene that broke my heart was when Luthen's assistant
Oh
basically stole the plot.
yeah, that killed me too because it's like, oh,
That hit a little too close to home.
it's for both of us on that one.
Um, Especially since even though that Luthen says that there will only be like father and daughter if 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 it calls for it, I do think they did view each other as family. I think,
Yeah, I think they did as well.
especially since he found her and all that.
Yeah, and they traveled together a lot too.
So we're gonna talk about one more thing, then we'll get to the Vader's view on the Empire. But I definitely love the ending where you see Cassian walking through the base, going to that same planet we first see in Rogue One, and just that music, and just him, and just
Oh,
him
that
giving
was
that,
so
yeah,
good.
and just him giving that little nod to the Force Healer, because the Force Healer said that he was going to send a message, and fantastic. So now we're going to talk about Vader's complicated working relationship with the Empire, and
Yup.
the reason why I want to say this is throughout watching Andor, I've always wondered what would Vader think about all of this, and I'm sure he knows.
Oh, you know good and well he knows.
Knowing how Vader is, he doesn't tolerate a lot of the Imperial officers, ISB, Imperial Navy. You know, he doesn't view them seriously enough, and you can tell because when like when for example in Rogue One, when Krennic ignorantly says, "So I'm still in command," immediately force choke. Be careful not to choke on your aspirations, director.
Oh, such a good scene.
And perfect example when the one Moff in the Death Star was running his mouth to Vader. Vader once again force choked him, and Tarkin told him to knock it off. And then, and how Vader says, "As you wish," was more was in was basically in a sense, you know, his way of saying, "I'll play nice," but he does that again.
He's done for.
And Vader. It's a known thing that Vader would always, take out his men, especially if they did something stupid. He had no patience for idiots.
Nope.
And I think that's how he viewed a lot of the Empire. He didn't respect a lot of people in the Empire. He respected Thrawn. He also respected Tarkin.
Yup.
Um,
Was
he
there?
might have he might have also respected Palpatine, but he was also mighty angry with him too. Because
Yeah.
um, let's see what else. He might have also still respected Yularen, who used to serve with him during the Clone Wars
Oh yeah.
when he was an Skywalker, maybe. But even his views on the Death Star, he thought of it as a waste of time. It's like, well, the ability to destroy a planet is pretty much doesn't match to the power of the Force. And if you look at Legends, especially the Old Republic, you see Darth Vitiate. using a force ritual to completely, in a sense, kill the planet of its force energy.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
That's why he was able to live forever for so long. Not to mention he body hopped.
A lot.
Mm-hmm. So the reason why I brought this up was because during the infamous scene with Bix, Star's theory, which this isn't me dogging on him, this isn't me, joining the hate train because I am a fan. I do like Star's theory, but sometimes I don't agree with his opinions, and that's totally fine.
And then that's okay. That's gonna
Um,
happen.
but he mentions how you know, Vader wouldn't have let that happen, and in my opinion, if it happened in front of him, maybe because we did see Vader defend a we did see Vader defend Starkiller in the Force Unleashed,
That is true. He did.
so he might have saved Bix, but he also saved Starkiller because he saw a use in him, and also too, there was that selfish part of it, and I was like, this is what I could have had. So you know what?
I'm gonna
So
do it.
I'm gonna train this boy as my apprentice and take out my master.
Yep.
Of course, that's not what happens because
Sadly.
Vader had to play nice with the with to quote Charlie Hopkins' Star Wars videos, um, the Palpster um, caught on real quick, and he was basically used as a pawn to find the rebellion and all that. Now, I need to read the book. I'm sure that the book of The Force Unleashed has more context as to why Vader's opinion turned on Starkiller so fast from being an apprentice to now being just a pawn.
If I remember correctly, it does go into more detail about that.
Wait, you read the Force Unleashed book?
I believe my nephew got it one year for Christmas, where he really liked the games a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it does. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it does.
And but knowing Vader, if he would have probably found out about it, I'm sure. See, it's complicated because Vader is a very complicated guy.
Oh, yeah. Love the man, but he complicated.
I think Vader would. I think Vader would have probably. I think Vader would have done something with him. But then when probably asked, why, because she's just one female. I can see Vader twisting it, not to so much savor, but so much mention about the fact that that some of you needs to be kept on a very short leash.
Oh,
Because again,
yeah.
Vader doesn't respect a lot of those Imperial losers. That's probably what he considers them as. He plays ball with them because of Palpatine. But other than that, if he could have done everything himself, he probably would.
True. You aren't wrong on that.
Because, like I said, Vader is not in the show, but you can very well feel his presence. He's he's out there. He's probably on Mustafar. He's probably slaughtering more Jedi somewhere. And here's the thing: Another perfect example of him not respecting a lot of people in the Empire. He despised the freaking Inquisitors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He did not like them. You there?
Yes.
But going back to Bix, the one thing that broke my heart is the fact that Cassian and her had a son. Well, a
Yeah,
kid.
they had a child. It makes me so
And
sad because when you realize what happens to Cassian in Rogue One, it's like, he never, oh no.
he never learned about their kid. He never gets to meet them. He what's interesting too, how they shot that scene with Bix and his and Cass and hit her and Cassian's kid. It's very similar to how Jin um and Cassian was. You have one of them looking out the sunset, but you have the other kind of looking away.
Wait, yeah, yeah,
And then
the feels. Uh,
and to touch more onto that is that when you see I've seen people discuss it online too, is that when you see Cassian close his eyes, that's him saying goodbye to everyone he knows.
no. Oh, that puts so much deeper meaning into it now after watching season 2 of Andor. Oh.
That's what they literally said, is that it's going to change a lot of things in Rogue One.
Fug.
But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Let us know your positive opinions about Andor season 2 or the series in general.
Yeah, just
I
put it
know
down below.
I know that a lot of you are going to be like, you guys barely talked a lot about Andor. It's because you're dealing with 12 episodes, 3 dropping at the same time. I would have had to write down notes.
Well, yeah, that and plus Andor gives you a lot of different perspectives on different things.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention, there's those hidden details as well. Is that if you don't catch
Eh,
it,
if you don't catch it the first time you watch it, you kind of fooked.
like for example, is Mon's Mothma's friend, to where it's hinted that Luthien was going to have
Him off.
um yeah, but yeah, you guys, let us know. Again, I'm still getting used to doing this type of content. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, may the force be with you always.
Bye bye.